They brought in 6 new faces, spending around $300 million. They broke their club record fee twice on Mateus Fernandes and then Sandro Tonali. And on the right, you can see all the players that they've sent out of Spurs during this summer. This is what Roberto De Zerbi has been saying to the media in the press conferences leading up to this friendly. The transfer market, it's not finished for sure, but we completed 60% of our project in the transfer market. Now we have another bomber. Good vocabulary there. So everybody, what could that bomber be that De Zerbi is referring to? 2 moves Spurs are reportedly working on are $80 million bid for Brazilian winger Savinho from Man City and a potential $40 million bid for English winger Marcus Rashford from Manchester United. Witty, look, if Spurs are able to land Savinho and Rashford, do you think that would make them serious contenders to qualify for the Champions League next season? Because they aren't going to be playing in that this upcoming year.
I think so. I rate Tottenham in the business that they've done already. I think having looked at their squad this morning, you realize that they do need some additions in wide areas. They let Brennan Johnson go. It probably didn't work for him at the level, but it's Matisse Tell, it's Dejan Kulusevski after a year and a half of not playing. And so they do need some depth and some additions in those wide areas. And I really like this team. I really like De Zerbi with what he can bring early. It is about trying to make it last longer because he is one of those managers that seems to flame out in situations. But I think in terms of having a week in between every game, no European football, go and implement your system and get the team to play that you want to take a step forward, I absolutely think that they can. I would pick them right now to finish 5th. I think that they're already taking the steps forward that they need to make, and I think the rest that they'll have of not playing in European football is going to lead them to have a much better season. I'm bullish on Tottenham already.
We're going to talk about the signings, which is much more interesting to talk about, but to your point, I think their best signing is not having midweek football. We see this time and time again where teams benefit from that because of the lack of fixture congestion, the time on the training ground with a manager who has such a distinct style and such an intense style where you get to rest and, injuries will happen. Hopefully that they get lucky on the injury front, but you can basically have 13 or 14 key starters, and if you're not playing midweek, then you got a big boost there.
Yeah. Let's say Tottenham could only get Rashford or Savinho. Who do you think they'd favour towards?
I think Rashford is English player in England just makes so much sense.
Really?
You think
I think Savinho? Yeah, of course, Savinho would be amazing to have, but
you'd rather have Rashford?
I think I feel from a marketing perspective because clearly Spurs
talk about
are
just
much
on the
more
field.
than just football.
If you're the manager and you could pick between these 2 players for the Tottenham team, take away everything else away.
You have the Ghanaian guy on the right hand side, Mohamed Kudus on the right, Rashford on the left. Like, don't you think to a certain degree Savinho and Mohamed Kudus potentially do the same thing?
Relatively similar, yes.
I'd rather imagine a Rashford, Madison, Kudus, Solanke, or another 9, or the Bomba, whatever, whatever it is. I think Marcus Rashford has shown that he's still apt for Premier League football. If he was good at Barcelona, I think he could be good at Spurs as well. Savinho had like one really good season at Girona, and then at City he was like flickering, had moments and then went dormant, had moments and then went dormant, and then it's like I have a little bit more faith in Rashford being more reliable than Savinho. It's like Savinho needs to take like ownership of his status at Spurs if he goes to Spurs. Like, he really hasn't ever in his career. There's pressure to perform like there wasn't at Girona. At Girona was like everything was an upside. And at City,
there's so much competition for places.
At City, within like half a transfer window, Pep went to go get better players in his position. Like, I don't know. It feels like Rashford. It feels like it could be potential for something great.
Yeah. So could Rashford be the potential bomber that De Zerbi is promising? Let's take a look at the players they have bought in, though, Tom, because they've introduced 6 new faces to the club so far. They've spent around $300 million. And you're going to be grading transfer by transfer, starting off with Sandro Tonali, who came in from Newcastle, also that club record fee.
So for me, the value is probably not super high because they had to pay up. But I'm such a big fan of Sandro Tonali. I'm giving that an A because I think that he'll dictate and be so important at the way that De Zerbi wants to play that, it costs more than maybe you wanted it to. But at the end of the day, if he hits as well as I think he's going to, it doesn't matter if you pay 20 million more than you wanted to. So I think that's an A for me. For Matheus Fernandes, I'm a little bit less on that because I think that it's less of a proven commodity because I just think that Tonali's better. And is there going to be too much overlap in the midfield with a lot of players? That's a lot of money. So he's still a very good player, but I don't know if they desperately needed to spend, 250 million almost on those two players. So I'll give that a B, but there's still plenty of upside there. Okay. Von Hecke, I really like this. I think he's going to fit in the team. That's not a bad fee for somebody at his age, with his profile, with his resume. I'm going to go B+ there, and then Senesi. I think that's an A because you do the value and you do his quality, what he did in the Premier League already. Again, I think that these are just a couple really smart signings. Andy Robertson, man, the culture of this club, what he'll bring to this team, and knowing that the week between games is going to help him a lot. I don't know that he's going to need to start every game between Jed Spence being able to play on the left, but that gives cover, and that gives such professionalism, and he still has quality, by the way. I thought at Liverpool he should have been playing more than Kirkez, and he just wasn't. So I'm going to go A because that was free. Dubravka, who cares? with all due respect, it's not going to be consequential. I'll throw a number, B, right? It's not going to determine their season. So I want to reiterate, though, I think Tonali is such a good signing by this club, and he's going to be so important for the way they play. And if you want to control games in the midfield, they still have some shortcomings in the attack, as Witty pointed out, that maybe they're one kind of key player short. The midfield, I have no questions.
Yeah. So on these 7 players here, Witty, do you agree with those grades? Would you put anyone higher? Or?
Yeah, to me, the Fernandes one is a little bit more questionable just because you could do a lot with 115 million. You can go and get a player that probably is a little bit more proven, that didn't just get relegated from West Ham. Again, not to impugn Matheus Fernandes as a player. He's a top talent. And one of the things that, for me, when you look at the transfer business, if De Zerbi is telling you, this is what I want to make my football work, you kind of have to trust him because he has built enough credibility in my mind to say, if you give him what he wants, he can work with you. He's got a full preseason and a week in between every game in order to figure this thing out. So Fernandes is the one that I would question. I completely agree with you on Senesi. That's a brilliant signing just in terms of filling out a profile on a free transfer.
Cuti Romero probably gone.
Yeah, yes. They got some really good work done in this window. You had a winger in there. They might have to make some sales. Tonali is fabulous. They needed ball progression in midfield. There are a lot of runners, a lot of active players, but not a lot of players with the ball that are getting the ball into forward areas that are dictating the play. So I think they've done some really good work.
Speaking of grades, Chris, you probably did all your summer reading.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Did
you have amazing vocabulary. I envy it. I feel like you're just that step up that I would love to be at one day.
Always did.
What do you think of me and Tom? We done our summer readings?
Not like Witty. I skipped out on a couple. I was pretty nerdy, but I feel like I can nerd up a little bit more.
You're not on Witty's level.
Witty's where I focus.
Do you want to compare SAT scores?
No chance. No chance. Please, no. God, no. Impugn is a fantastic word. Congratulations. Fantastic word to just
throw out there.
Impugn. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you have a point on the grades? No? Okay.
Grades, summer reading.
Okay. All right. Do you want to give us Roberto De Zerbi's checklist for this upcoming season? He's been there since March. He managed 7 seasons last season, but it does feel like a fresh start for him now, doesn't it?
Before we throw out the list, I just wanted to throw out a general, please, De Zerbi, don't combust.
Yes.
Can
we keep things normal, please?
Especially at Spurs. I understand that Marseille is a volatile club in and of itself at the moment. In Italy tends to be very fiery. If you combust at Spurs, it goes haywire. It goes south way too quickly. It's kind of keep calm and carry on. I do rate him as a manager. I think he has fantastic ideas. But we saw the flame out of Conte. We saw the flame out of Jose Mourinho, of Ange. I think it perhaps says a little bit more about Spurs than it does about those managers. But it just feels like let's not fall back into the trap that cuts the feet off of a project way too quickly at Spurs. So just in general.
Before we get into that checklist then, did you see any signs of him combusting towards the end of the season? Because there was so much pressure on him.
And especially because of that, right? Yeah. It feels like pressure plus, extreme pressure plus De Zerbi tends to, in science experiment, come on, Woody, like in seventh grade when your teacher's showing you like you mix two things and it explodes.
You do the volcano in class.
Yeah.
So he handled the end of the season well with all the pressure of the relegation.
With a lot of confidence, with like a North Star that Spurs followed, and perhaps West Ham helped them out a little bit in that process, but out of all the managers that they used, it felt like he had a pulse on the situation that gave Spurs a little bit of life.
Okay.
They needed that.
The confidence, I got this. We're good. We'll be fine. We'll survive. I promise.
Okay.
And he delivered.
Okay, get into the checklist then.
Number 1, find your leaders. Spurs was a team void of leaders. Especially with Cuti Romero being out for so long, James Maddison being injured, all of these guys, like you not having a Kane, a Son finally for the first time in a decade, basically. Spurs needs a guy that says, I'm going to represent this club, I'm going to be emblematic, I'm going to take this team forward. And it just felt like last season, everybody was pointing fingers at somebody else, including managers at higher ups. Someone take responsibility. This is a massive club in the Premier League. So, first and foremost. Then develop an attacking identity, and I think this goes a little bit more to, it plays a little bit more to the conversation that we were having just a moment ago about the Bomba, who's it going to be, Savinho, Rashford reportedly. This was a team that scored the fewest amount of goals for a Spurs team in the Premier League since like 2010, I think, or 2009, something like that, in a very, very long time. So let's see it be exciting, please. Whoever you add, let's make sure it's on the front foot. Something that excites the fans, that galvanizes this incredible stadium, that makes Spurs a formidable side to play against. And then finally, fitness. They missed, like, collectively, I have the number somewhere here, 363 games. Spurs players missed 363 games throughout the entire season put together. That's the most in the Premier League.
Wow.
You have to stay fit. Like, especially like Cuti Romero, Van de Ven, the goalkeeper, Kulusevski, Kudus, Solanke. The list goes on. And Maddison, right? Maddison was basically the whole year. Fitness is such a key part of the modern game and having a deep squad. So just, if we can keep these guys fit, I think Spurs can do something. I think it's difficult to keep a very fit squad throughout the entire season. Look at Arsenal, right? Of course. And the success to their season, really, although they crawled to the finish line, they got to the finish line and they crossed it first, was their depth.
Okay, nice. I like the checklist. Boys, what do you think of the checklist for De Zerbi?
Yeah, it's great. The one thing, though, as it relates to the fitness question is I don't know if you're in control of that. It's one of those things where we don't really know yet about sports science. Everyone's trying to figure out the way to keep your players fit, but it really just kind of seems like a luck thing. They just kind of need a little bit of luck. And that, I think, goes in the overall with both in terms of the status of their players, but also with this injury problem that they have. But yeah, I actually think the point that you made before the checklist, which is the calmness, can we keep De Zerbi on side, I think is huge. And part of that is getting the players that he wants and not selling the players that he wants to keep. And so far, it looks like they've done that. I mean, they probably have to get rid of Romero, but I think that situation was poisoned enough before he got there. But other than that, I think it now is about keeping the players that he wants, signing more players that he wants, and trying to keep him happy. And
they already have the replacements for Cuti Romero at center back, so they've done that work early, which helps where you're not in a Newcastle situation where when Isak got sold, it's like, okay, we missed on this target, that target. Voltamati, you're the only one left. For De Zerbi, in this attack, without Xavi Simons, who do you see as somebody who's going to benefit from a full season, a full preseason of De Zerbi football? Who's the guy that you kind of see Witty as? Yeah, to me, I think Maddison in that number 10 role, if he plays, if he's sort of fit enough to play a game in, game out. But yeah, all those guys. I actually think the player that most stands to benefit is not an attacker. I think it's Pedro Porro, who obviously had a brilliant World Cup.
but has looked exposed at times. I think De Zerbi will do the best to get the most out of him. We saw his technical ability in tight spaces for Spain, his ability in possession, his ability to hold his position when he needs to, but then he can go flying forward. I think Porro might be the player who most stands to benefit from the change of manager.
I want to single out 2 players because this team clearly has a heart, which is Tonali in the midfield. He can level up with a manager like De Zerbi. De Zerbi made a lot of guys at Brighton level up just from a technical perspective. I don't know how much more work Tonali needs, but you look at the evolution of a guy like Moises Caicedo and Alexis McAllister at Brighton, it's incredible. McAllister himself said that the manager that changed him the most was not Jurgen Klopp, was De Zerbi, allowed him to view football in a different way. Look how Moises Caicedo really transformed into one of the best center midfielders in the Prem. So it's not only Tonali that speaks the same language, comes from the same football background as De Zerbi. It's Mateus Fernandes, who is young, who is moldable, who we've already seen signs of a great midfielder. And if De Zerbi can get the most out of him and turn him into something that we haven't seen yet, there's so much upside to a player like that.